Right, it's Thursday, which means we're back with another episode of Jujutsu Kaisen Season 3, The Culling Game Part 1. After last week's 2-episode opener, we're down to just the one this time, but before we dive into the episode, first of all, I just want to say a big thank you to everyone who checked out last week's reaction, and for the really positive and warm reception to reintroducing JJK onto the channel after such a long wait. It means a lot, and I'm going to be going into watching the rest of this season with you all with a real excitement, so it should be a lot of fun. Anyway, without further ado, let's get on with this thing. This is the 50th episode of Jujutsu Kaisen overall, which is a pretty huge milestone. Again, as I said before, I don't know this series like I know Bleach. I've read the manga and watched everything to date, but ultimately, I'm just a fan, so my level of knowledge regarding the series is definitely leaning more on the casual side. But that being said, I'll be watching this episode from the perspective of someone who has read the entirety of JJK before, so expect potential spoilers for the manga. This is an open spoiler zone from here on out. Also, if you are new here and enjoyed today's video and you want to see more just like this from the channel, or if you want to just help support the channel in a big way, consider hitting subscribe. I'm trying to hit 300,000 subs by the end of the year, and it's only going to be possible with your help, so please consider doing so today. Right, here we go. Remember, as always, to let me know your thoughts on the episode down in the comments. This is episode 3 of season 3 of Jujutsu Kaisen, titled About the Culling Game. And yeah, if I remember the manga rightly, there's a lot of exposition going into this arc, so there could be a lot of dialogue to digest here today. Let's take a look. I am hoping we're going to start seeing some of the unique Culling Game characters, the Culling Game sorcerers, start showing up soon, because there are some really fantastic designs among them. And once again, like I mentioned last time, I love the way this area looks. The detail on the close-ups of those character faces, that is fantastic. This is such a beautiful show. It's unbelievable looking, to be totally honest. There's a very eerie kind of ambient noise in the background. It's like an absence of noise. It's quite clever. This is a big spoiler. I did mention there will be spoilers, but I hope that the anime maybe changes up or adds a little to Kenjaku's ultimate defeat and death, because I remember being a little disappointed with that in the manga, although I don't think they will, but I just remember thinking it was very quick for such a major villain. Oh yeah, of course, the Star Plasma Vessel. Gojo's backstory, the hidden inventory arc with Toji and Geto. That's like one of my favourite parts of JJK, specifically the anime. It is cool how that ties back around into ultimately Tengen now that you finally meet them. I also like that subtle, the characters are all moving away from the door, but now the door is moving away from the characters. That's kind of creepy. Oh, and then Yuji does actually notice it. Okay, yeah, that's pretty eerie. I was kind of right last week. I mentioned that a couple of them stayed behind and ended up fighting Kenjaku when he tries to break in here. I just couldn't remember exactly who it was. I mentioned Tsukomo, I mentioned Choso, but I thought there was a third, but I don't actually think there is, now that I remember rightly. Tengen is such a uniquely weird-looking character. Okay, but a Kenjaku detail. Kenjaku, one of my favourite characters in the series. Maybe that's just because he's predominantly Suguru Geto, who is my favourite character, but still an awesome villain. I also like the implication that Tengen's realm is kind of outfitted with the technology necessary to provide an exposition dump. Literally with flowcharts and everything on the sky. That's right. That's right, it's all kind of coming back to me now. Kenjaku's ultimate goal is to fuse all of humanity, or at least Japan's population, with Tengen. In some strange, abstract, kind of godly way. Oh, yes. That is a brutal moment. I mean, that basically sets into motion everything, really, because that's what sent Suguru over the edge. Tengen is a very weird, very abstract and conceptual character. A pretty cool vision of a sort of fantastical divine being in a sense. What they're saying right now is that what we're seeing, this isn't really Tengen, this is some kind of projection, but Tengen is everywhere. That's a cool shot. All of these shots look absolutely stunning. Just the line work, the artistry. This is a gorgeous show. And this is just a lore dump, so imagine how some of the later things are going to look. Yes, that's cool. So Tengen can be absorbed by Geto's curse technique. That's awesome. I mean, that does present a huge problem for everyone, but it is pretty... again, it harkens back to Hidden Inventory. That kind of set everything into motion in a big way. Tengen's a problematic character for the world, in a sense. A very fragile character. This episode's going to be one big explanation, isn't it? That's pretty cool. Kenjaku has been trying to deal with the Star Plasma Vessel and the Six Eyes to be able to get to Tengen for a very long time now and hasn't been able to. Toji Zenin, there he is. Awesome character. Again, there's something about this show where I love the characters who are barely in it. And Suguru Geto, another my actual favourite character, who also is barely in it. There's a lot here. There's a lot going on. One of my few issues with Jujutsu Kaisen, I find, is that it has a tendency to unnecessarily overcomplicate explanations in particular. It has a tendency to make things very convoluted, where I don't think they necessarily need to be. Ultimately, all of this Culling Game stuff can be boiled down to a much more simplistic outcome. But it is cool at the same time, though, because the world and the narrative are anchored by pretty ironclad rules, which is important. It's important because otherwise you end up with abilities like you find in the latter stages of Bleach, like, say, the Miracle, that can just get away with absolutely anything, whereas this series is a lot more... It certainly feels like it's trying to... But like you end up with situations like that, for example, where they are saying on screen, this is Itadori and his friends' objectives, so that the audience can keep up, basically. That's why that's on the screen like that. It's an admittance, in a sense. So Choso and Tsukomo are staying behind. That does lead to one of the best fights of the entire manga. Also, I love that we're about halfway through this episode, and no one has moved an inch. Obviously, it's the nature of their discussion, but it just makes me laugh a little bit. All of the little fish moving around in the water, that's pretty cool. I think this is how we now lead into, if I remember rightly again, some of the curse tools being involved. Why Maki ends up going back to the Zenin stronghold. I mean, if if that's coming up soon, which I think it should be, that's going to be spectacular. Inverted Spear of Heaven, yep. Toji's weapon that he used to go straight through Gojo. That is an amazing... Just that fight. That fight actually really sold me on Jujutsu Kaisen, to be completely honest. Particularly in the anime, where it just is next level. Their exasperation towards Gojo is funny. Oh, so that's the explanation where Yuta's been all this time. Yes, Angel. Now we're going to start seeing some of the cooler characters. There she is. Some of these character designs, in the Culling Game in particular, are so cool. And this is one of them. What an awesome looking character. You know what? She reminds me of like a Tekken character. And I'm not just saying that because there are many Tekken characters with angelic themes, including a character actually called Angel, but she just does remind me of a Tekken character. Again, I love that this is all just being projected around. So now we are fully getting the breakdown of the Culling Game itself. Like, this is how the Culling Game works. I don't think we've had them, unless I'm mistaken, have we had the moment where Kenjaku takes that... I can't remember exactly who they are. Aren't they one of Yuji's friends from back in school from the occult club? He takes them out of the colony and, so they can be saved, so they're not part of the game, basically. He takes them through the barrier. We had that bit yet? I don't think we have. At least I think that's what happens. Pretty sure it is. Again, I can't remember exactly. Again, it's showing us, Kenjaku's entire plan laid out in a literal flowchart, because there is a lot going on here. There's a lot to digest. Like, this is the kind of episode that you should probably watch a couple of times. But ultimately, again, it can all be boiled down to fairly simple outcomes. Like, see, we're going through some of the Culling Game rules again now. Now we've got countdowns into the mix as well. Oh yes, yeah, I remember a lot of this. It mentioned a minute ago about them having to create new rules. Oh, Shoko. Cool character. That looked awesome. Just the simple act of her lighting her cigarette looked incredibly cool. Is Shoko in the manga at this point? I genuinely can't remember that, to be honest. Although it is Maki basically just recounting what she said. Panda! Panda's backstory. Maybe one of the saddest things I've ever seen in a manga. Just saying. Yep, so this idea of them being granted a chance to leave. I think that is Kenjaku taking that person outside in that one moment. See, I like that. That nice little character moment there that Yuji is not happy about the idea of one of the rules being focused on ending other player life. Kogane, that's the small little Shikigami that I mentioned last week. I couldn't remember its name or anything like that. But yes, that's the one that brings up all the rules and mentions that when people have been entered and killed and stuff like that. Yeah, Kogane is not the game master. Kogane basically just relays how things are going in the game. It's like an announcer, kind of. So you can add a rule, but you can't get rid of an existing rule. Which means you can add a rule that can potentially tamper with an existing rule, which is kind of what they try and do. This is a dense episode. Yeah, well, there you go. So yes, he's already worrying about the fact that he's going to have to kill people. But if I remember correctly, again, I don't remember exactly, but they do try and circumvent that in a big way. Yes. Yes! So it is fairly soon. This is what comes when you can't remember the manga like the back of your hand. You do get surprised by things. But yes, so Maki going back to the Zenin household is going to happen soon, I think. Juzo Kumiya? Is he the guy who's like he looks like a blacksmith or something like that with a bald head? Gosh, that's testing my knowledge retention. Well, I mean, we know it doesn't end up great for Megami. Again, he does disappear for quite a long time as a result of Sukuna. Yep, Hakari, there he is. People love this guy. I wasn't crazy about him in the manga like a lot of people were, as I mentioned last week, but I'm more than happy to see him show up in the anime and to see how my opinion changes. He does have a very cool curse technique, though. All themed around, like, gambling and luck and that sort of thing. Very cool. Jeez, I mean, look at this. This is basically Kenjaku's entire scheme laid out, the story of Jujutsu Kaisen all the way, as a big flowchart. This episode loves flowcharts. Oh, wow. This is what I mean. There's an awful lot going on. But you could kind of pause it and go through it and ensure that you are up to date with what everyone needs to do. But that is a lot. This is exactly what I mean. Like, that's a huge lore dump, a huge exposition dump all in one go. But it does free up now essentially the rest of the season, really, for the craziness that's about to follow. Also, they're actually moving now. It's taken them 20 minutes to move from the spot. Choso looks great there. I mean, that's just a great little shot. Again, wonderfully drawn. Choso crying about leaving. Being nice to him. That was good. Oh, this suddenly looks very different. Oh, it's Takaba! I completely forgot that he was introduced this early. This is what I mean. So we are starting to see the Jujutsu sorcerers, the Culling Game competitors, being introduced. Angel was briefly shown. And I feel like Angel's introduction in that way was actually the cliffhanger of a chapter. So we're only covering about 2 chapters in this episode, which is pretty good going. That's the kind of pacing that the Thousand Year Blood War kind of needed initially. I don't think he's awakened his curse technique just yet. That might be about to happen, I think. Because some of the people in the Culling Game are... So a lot of them are people that Kenjaku they are Heian era sorcerers that Kenjaku awoke inside unsuspecting people. But there are other people who are just normal humans, everyday humans, who can become Jujutsu sorcerers who then do so because it awakens it in them. I think Takaba is one of them, just like Higuruma is as well. See, I mean, that's pretty creepy. That's pretty creepy, and I'm assuming that, from what I remember, that's the end of the episode. I'm assuming that is that's the kind of appearance of his powers, not the resurgence, the appearance of his powers. I don't remember exactly, but that is his official introduction. Wow, okay, so yeah, that was a lot to go over. I do appreciate them being very literal, very overt in the way they break it down, in the way they are like, this is what's happening, this is what's happened and has led to this point, and this is what needs to happen next. I do think the manga had a tendency to overcomplicate things like that, to make very convoluted, but it is helpful to see it all broken down like that. And that was a very, like I said, a very dense episode. A lot of talking, a lot of dialogue, but that's good. You need that to establish the narrative, to establish the direction we're going in. And now that they are leaving Tengen's realm once again, that blows open. It completely blows open where the story can go from now. You know, if I remember rightly, this is where things start to get pretty crazy. I'm fairly sure Maki goes back to the Zenin household pretty soon, and that is going to be insane to see. Yeah, that was a very necessary episode. I would be surprised if you see people freaking out. Yeah, look, see, next... That's going to be crazy. Next episode, perfect preparation. That's pretty awesome. Because obviously that leads into her receiving the Heavenly Pact, obviously Mai's death. That's going to be good stuff. That's going to be really, really good stuff. But yeah, I'd be surprised if you see anyone absolutely freaking out over this episode, but it was necessary. It was totally necessary to get everyone on the same page, to make sure we all understand what's going on, to make sure we all understand where we're going, what the different parties need to do, what the different major players are going to be doing. So yeah, that's pretty cool. That's awesome stuff. So we know where everyone is. Choso and Tsukumo are staying behind with Tengen. Yuji and Megami are going to find Hakari. Yuta is going into the colony to start playing the game immediately. And Maki is going to the Zenin household. I think that's everyone. So yeah, that's cool. I think it's a necessary episode. Not the most exciting episode necessarily by any stretch of the imagination, but once again, it looked amazing. And I think we're going to be in for a real treat next time. So yeah, make sure you come back for episode 4 of season 3, Perfect Preparation, because it looks like it's going to be a good one. Alright everyone, but that's it for today's video for my latest live reaction for Jujutsu Kaisen Season 3, The Culling Game Part 1. Let me know your thoughts on the episode down in the comments below. Did you like this one? Did you enjoy the dialogue, the explanation of everything that's going on, everything that needs to happen, of Kenjaku, of Tengen, all of that sort of thing? Do let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Remember, like I said, consider hitting subscribe if you enjoyed this video and want to see more just like this in the future. I'd absolutely love to have you. Check out my Patreon as well if you want to take your support of the channel another step further. You can support me for as little as $1 a month. The $2 a month tier is the most popular one. That gets you access to my videos completely free of YouTube ads, and there are more perks coming in the near future as well. So thank you all, and a massive thank you to everyone who is supporting me over there, including everyone who is newly supporting me over there too. It does mean the absolute world. Okay guys, but until next time, I'll catch you later, and I'll see you then.